It's time. It's time. The day has finally come. And is Marvin Harrison Jr. almost a lock to go number 4 to the Cardinals, regardless of what the trade package offers are? Let's discuss.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Locked On Cardinals. Alex Clancy here. Follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen, free wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit it. I have a competitive side, and I'm a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. So you join your friends and download Monopoly Go now, free on the App Store and Google Play. We're here. It's time? Yes. Let's take a little step back. Let's go down memory lane for a moment. The year was 2023. Michael Bidwell had just fired Steve Keim and Cliff Kingsbury. There was unrest. There was a clouded future. And there was relief that the last regime was no longer here. Then, since that moment, Michael Bidwell has put into place a GM, head coach, and other coaches and coordinators in a position to usher the Arizona Cardinals into the future. And when you look at, what we've experienced, especially through, last season, I don't know if I could have mapped out a better path and better results. Sure, you want the Cardinals to win a bunch of games, obviously. The team was bad last year. Kyler Murray tore his ACL, and, we don't have to rehash that. But even in my wildest dreams, looking at a first-time GM, even though he's been in multiple front offices, a first-time head coach, could position the Cardinals the way that they have. It's kind of incredible. It's kind of miraculous. And miraculous only in the sense that we had never experienced it before. We hadn't seen anything remotely close to the aptitude coming from the front office, to the drive and leadership coming from the coaching staff over the last, handful of years under the last regime. In a situation that is so fragile, in a situation that there's so much pressure under, to pretty much overhaul and change the trajectory of a perennially losing organization, filled with dysfunction and infused with an egomaniacal owner and front office mates of late, coaches who couldn't hack it, save the Bruce Arians years and a couple Wiz years, a couple Denny Green years, and just an overall malaise on the organization with no real path to victory for the future. That's all changed. And that's not to say it'll come to fruition. That's not to say the Cardinals are going to win a Super Bowl in 2024, 2025, but it's different. And different has a runway. Different has a roadmap. Not that we know what it is yet. But different is good. And to give credit to Monti Ossenfort and Jonathan Gannon, I've said this multiple times, if the last regime head coach and GM, say they won 5 Super Bowls in a row, and they were like, you know what, we're going to go back or we're going to go somewhere else. Even if it was the most perfect scenario that Monti Ossenfort and Jonathan Gannon had to take over during this rebuild, in a vacuum, I would be saying the same thing. Over the last 18 months, it's been nothing short of great. And while some may disagree and some may say, well, they lost a bunch of games, they collapse in the second half. Kyler Murray's not the guy. Jonathan Gannon's not the guy. Drew Petzing's offense doesn't work. I don't know what you're watching, and I don't know what your expectations are. So as we pivot out of the free pass year, which was 2023 for the Cardinals, and coming off the heels of a boring yet very effective free agency, sector, as free agency, will be ongoing for a while now. And a while after the draft. on the precipice of potentially drafting the next great wide receiver while having 5 other picks in the top 100. It's just good to take a sec, and that's why I'm doing 5 or 7 minutes on this to start the show, to have a collective deep breath and say, I trust what the GM is going to do tonight and through the weekend. I trust that what the GM, head coach, do will be for the best of the organization, will be the best for this team, best for the future, best for balance, best for talent infusion, and everything in between. Not self-serving, not to be the smartest person in the room, but to prepare this team on top of the foundation that's being built with just another addition to making this team better. And by addition, I'm not saying just Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm not saying just the second-round pick or the bevy of thirds or all the way down the list. I'm not saying that specifically. I'm using the NFL draft as a tool, as an entity, to add to the ever-growing foundation of the Arizona Cardinals organization. And that, while being able to trust the man, behind the controls tonight and through the weekend, is something that is unfathomable is an understatement. Because we didn't know last year, and we still don't know, okay? There's a lot of things that are so far so good. We don't know if Paris Johnson Jr. is going to be an all-world right or left tackle, depending on where Jonah Williams plays this year. We don't know if B.J. Ojulari is going to be a Pro Bowler. We don't know if Garrett Williams or Michael Wilson are going to be healthy enough throughout their career to have a sustained impact. We don't know. But so far, so bleeping good. So going into tonight and through the weekend, namely tonight and tomorrow, fans, you, media members, me, can sit back and just watch Monty do his thing. And that can mean so many different things. The whole trade back and trade back up thing, I know that I tweeted something out about it, 6 weeks ago or so. It was more of an exercise. A lot of things I do on the show are exercises because we don't know what's going to happen in the draft. And we haven't up until 48 hours ago. All the mocks are coming out. Marvin Harrison Jr. is the guy. Peter Schrager came out. Marvin Harrison Jr. is the guy through his mock draft that he dropped this morning. I'm recording this a little bit later because I wanted to get any sort of rumblings on social media and otherwise before I recorded today. So you had the most accurate, news, whatever came out this morning, infused into today in the show. But going into tonight, if it's Marvin, if it's not, knowing that Monti Ossenfort has a plan, he's been executing that plan since day one, and this is just the next cog in that plan, the NFL draft. And I haven't been this excited for something to see what happens in a very, very long time, especially with this team. What was the last thing you were excited about on draft night? Kyler Murray? What was the last thing you were excited about? The playoff game against Green Bay? The Hail Murray? But regarding the draft specifically, when was the last time you were most excited for this team? And to see what happens. Whatever it is, pretty sure this is going to supplant that tonight. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. Is Marvin Harrison Jr. an Arizona Cardinal? Is it all but waiting several hours until the draft kicks off tonight? I will discuss that next as we roll on here. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by Monopoly Go. We've all been there. Either it's a player or a fan. It's halftime, and the scoreboard is not looking good. You're feeling low, not sure you or your team can pull out a win. That's when you dig deep, lift your head up, and say to yourself, time to get back in the game, pull off some bank heists, and take as much from my friend's money as I possibly can. That's right. The smash hit mobile game Monopoly Go lets you compete with your friends to get the most riches and the biggest empire. It's Monopoly you love, but on your phone anytime with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress to your buddies. There's so much to do. Play on countless dynamic Monopoly boards. Make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with a wrecking ball. Charge other players rent for your iconic properties. You can even work with your friends to crack open community chests and in tournaments to get extra rewards and climb the leaderboard. So get back out there, put on your game face, and download the Monopoly Go app, now free on the App Store or Google Play. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is also brought to you by FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game or whatever the hell is going to happen tonight in the first round. FanDuel's got you covered for odds for a player to be drafted at specific spot, etc. It's endless there. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. It's $150, win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that's safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for, man? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. Alex Clancy here. So it's time. All of the mocks are now having the Arizona Cardinals draft Marvin Harrison Jr. There's one that had the Cardinals trade back. It was so weird. It was such a weird one. The team jumped, the Bills jumping all the way up to 4. The Cardinals getting 28, their second round pick, a future first, and then 2/3. Like, what are we doing here, guys? But, it's crazy season. Is Marvin Harrison Jr. an Arizona Cardinal? Is it a formality? Seems to be. There are reports out that the team's already told them that if he's there, they'll draft him. Kyler Murray's tweeting out, feel like it's going to be a good night. Paris Johnson Jr. commenting and smiling. For those that forgot, Paris Johnson Jr. played with Marvin Harrison Jr. last year in Ohio State. It's a lot of juniors. The Cardinals may have their star. And listen, we're going to have all offseason and all next season to be like, was he the right pick? Was Malik Neighbors a better receiver? What about Rome Odunze? Let's remove all of that, please. The Cardinals will have their guy. It'll be interesting to see what they do with the number. If he's going to have to change his number or buy up all of B.J. Ojulari's 18 jerseys. 18 means a lot to B.J. Ojulari also. So we'll see if we see Marvin Harrison Jr. with a different number. If Marvin Harrison Jr. is an Arizona Cardinal, it means a couple things. One, the Cardinals' offense is trending towards being complete. It's wild how 1 or 2 players can make it from what it was last year to complete. And while the wide receiver room still needs help, and a lot of people I've trusted that I trust in this business, in the draft world, have said, why not draft another one? Why not draft another wide receiver with one of your third rounders if somebody drops, or take a flyer in the 4th round, or if the Cardinals trade back from 27, which I'll discuss in the last segment, maybe take another receiver in the 2nd round with an extra pick. Like, the Cardinals' defense obviously needs a lot more help than the offense, but the offense can use as many weapons as possible. Luckily for the Cardinals, if they don't draft another wide receiver and they don't bring another veteran in, which is highly possible, to play that wide receiver 2/3 role with Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch, they've got Trey McBride, who's their #1 option in the pass game right now, which is great. It doesn't have to be a wide receiver. Ask Patrick Mahomes. And I'm not comparing them. I'm just saying that other teams have done it with tight end as their #1. I mean, Tom Brady did it with Gronk. And then Julian Edelman kind of snuck in there, besides the Randy Moss here. It means the offense is complete. That's one. Number 2, and this is, while it seems counterintuitive to draft a wide receiver for this reason, makes it a whole hell of a lot easier on the run game. Whole hell of a lot easier. The Cardinals faced a lot of stacked boxes last year because they had terrible quarterback play for the most part until Kyler Murray came back. And then Drew Petzing is like, we're going to run the ball. Try and stop it. And they couldn't. And they couldn't for the last, 4 or 5 games of the year. Cardinals put up bonkers rushing numbers. Some of that was block scheme. Some of that was Drew Petzing and the timing of his play calling. Some of that was James Conner just being good. Some of that was Kyler Murray keeping the defense honest with the RPO game. You put Marvin Harrison Jr. on the outside with a healthy Michael Wilson, a real fast Greg Dortch in the slot, and Marvin Harrison Jr. all over the field with Trey McBride, even from a blocking position, being able to release on play actions. And Kyler Murray, you tell me. You tell me where that would rank. So those are a couple. Those are obvious. Okay. What is the negative's the wrong word. What are what's the path after that because they took a wide receiver at 4 and opted not to trade back and fill many needs in this draft and getting a future first-round pick? And remember, third-round picks and first-round picks aren't the same. Sure, you find they're called gems. They're called finds in the third round. They're just called first-rounders when they're drafted in the first round and they work. Okay? Most players are busts who get drafted in the NFL. So the argument, oh, well, you don't know if they're going to pan out. Yeah, we don't know anything's going to happen. Oh, you got so many more picks. Why do you need more picks? Because third round and first round picks aren't the same. Well, they could be. Stop it. Do it in a vacuum. Just for me, please. Them drafting Marvin Harrison Jr. at 4 punts the ability to build out this roster with premium talent more quickly. Just face value, again, in a vacuum. Wide receiver talent doesn't directly correlate to winning Super Bowls. Drafting a wide receiver in the first round rarely translates to that. Rarely. I think, so I crunched the numbers. I did some research for about half an hour, 45 minutes. The only wide receiver drafted in the top 10 in the last 10 years won a Super Bowl was Mike Evans. And that was because Tom Brady went there. So that's the argument against it. But we're done with arguments at this point. What position does that put the Cardinals in if they draft Marvin Harrison Jr. for? What does it mean? It means they're not going to get a top corner. They're not going to get a top pass rusher. They're not going to get a top offensive lineman, most likely. So they've decided taking the best player available, regardless of need, was more important than filling holes with a couple different guys in a very deep first round, which is fine. But that's the choice that Monti Ossenfort took if they do stick with Marvin Harrison Jr. at 4. So they've got 5 other picks in the top 100. I got it. They got 27, they got 35, and they've got 66, 71, 90. As of now, Monti Ossenfort could go absolutely scorched earth tomorrow with the amount of capital they have. But it's a clear line in the sand saying this may take one more year for them to be thrust into actual deep playoff run consideration. And it may not. But just roster construction and roster building. It's a bold move to take somebody at 4 when they would most likely be able to get an extra first this year and one next year. But that's a decision that has been made or will have been made if they draft Marvin Harrison Jr. at 4. The roster construction roadmap changes. And it may have been Marvin Harrison Jr. at 4 anyways, regardless. That could have been the guy 2 months ago. Where they're like, if he's there, we're taking him. If he's there, we're taking him. Okay. So obviously being open for business is just good business by Monti Ossenfort. But if it's not worth 3 first-round picks now, why would it have been worth 3 first-round picks then? They didn't do that much in free agency to make it be like, oh, they could have, things have changed because they filled some holes. Maybe the Jonah Williams one, but he wanted to play with the Cardinals. And obviously the Bengals ain't paying anybody because they're getting ready to pay Jamar Chase. Trey Hendrickson wants out. T. Higgins wants out. Maybe that's just a ploy to get a contract extension, which it most likely is, but doesn't mean that they're going to be able to keep him. The Cardinals offseason was boring. It filled holes, but it also didn't change the trajectory of what they were going to do with impact makers. It wasn't the offseason for it. Next season is. So what is Monti Ossenfort drafting Marvin Harrison Jr. for mean? 1, they get their star, obviously. 2, the offense is pretty much complete. And 3, the roadmap for the rest is a little murkier. It's a little different. Is he going to utilize the 27th overall pick and trade back and maybe get a second this year and a second next year? Is he going to package one of the third-round picks with 27 and move up and maybe take a Jared Verse in the late teens, or maybe move up and take a Cooper DeJean, cornerback out of Iowa, with a top 20 pick? I don't know. What I do know is we're going to talk about it next. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. It's not just a job board, man. It helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. It's time. I can't believe it. I can't believe we're here, everydayers. First of all, thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen. Free wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Please go to YouTube channel, search Locked On Arizona Cardinals. Visiting my family in Northern California, so you see the different background. Pivoted away from my laptop, so it hopefully gets some better video quality here. I'm up in the mountains. Sorry about that the last couple of days. But I'll be here with you. Follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner _ and Locked On AZ Cards. Starting the Twitter up again. I won't make any more jokes about it. It's just the nature of the beast here at this point. Marvin Harrison Jr. Everything that we're seeing through mock drafts, everything we're seeing through reports from Jordan Schultz and otherwise is, if he's there, the Cardinals have told him pretty much that they're going to take him. And before I get to 27 and the options, and not just player options, but trade up, trade back options. And I discussed this a little bit 2 days ago, discussed it a little bit with Dame Parson from Locked On NFL Draft and the Draft Network. Check that out. It was a great interview. Excuse the video quality, but he's great. One of the best that we have here. He wants to be here. Marvin Harrison Jr. does. When was the last time before this offseason? And I'm not going to make too big a deal of this. We got a few minutes to tackle number 27 overall. When was the last time somebody came here and you believed that they wanted to be here? J.J. Watt, maybe. I think J.J. Watt's just a good player and a good person, great teammate. I think anywhere he would have gone, he would have been embraced because he's J.J. Watt. Terrell Suggs didn't really want to be here. Malcolm Butler obviously didn't want to be here. It's like Marvin Harrison Jr. And when Isaiah Simmons got drafted and Damon Collins got drafted, I think everybody was so focused on why the hell were they drafted than thinking about if they wanted to be here. Marvin Harrison Jr., while I know other outlets go bonkers when they see him liking tweets and Instagram posts and stuff, I take that with a grain of salt. He likes a bunch of different things. It truly feels like he wants to be here. Dear friend Tyler Drake from Cardinals Corner had him on last week over at Arizona Sports. Does great work over there. He had on his podcast, he had Paris Johnson Jr. on his podcast, And Paris Johnson pretty much said, Marvin Harrison Jr. wants to be an Arizona Cardinal. And it does a couple of things. One, cool. Because once it happens, and I've discussed this for so long on this show, every day, as you'll know this if you've been with me for a while. First off, thank you. Second of all, you'll know this. Third, if this is your first listen, thank you. Maybe make tomorrow your second listen. It'll be awesome. The momentum that needs to be built to become an attractive destination for free agents is something that the Cardinals have always shot themselves in the foot trying to achieve. Maybe they didn't try to achieve it because they thought, I always say Michael Bidwell and Steve Keim ran this organization like they'd won 10 Super Bowls. Like, don't worry, guys. We got this. I know it's a little rudimentary. Look at the trophies. We know what we're doing. But they didn't. That's kind of how they ran the organization. And it stopped them from being able to bring any sort of, momentum in, aside from trades, which, aside from no trade clause, the players don't actually have any say over it. And that's something that's been missing for so long, where it's like, I want to be here. DJ Dallas coming in saying, it's in the cards. I want to be here. This is where I want to be. Jonah Williams, I want to play with Kyler Murray. Marvin Harrison Jr. seemingly wanting to be an Arizona Cardinal. It's different. And that, while some may say, all free agents say that when they get signed, they're just going to take the most money. It's different. It's different. And Marvin Harrison Jr. wanting to be, by all accounts, an Arizona Cardinal, getting drafted by an Arizona Cardinal to play with Kyler Murray, it's a beautiful thing. And then number two, it validates Kyler Murray. Regardless of if you think Kyler Murray's the guy or not, it validates Kyler Murray. Look around the NFL. Half the teams don't have any idea who the future of their team is, what the future of their team is from the quarterback position, for varying reasons. One, their quarterbacks are terrible. Two, they need to draft the quarterback this year and force the situation. Three, there may be a time where it's like, you're not worth the money. Four, onward and onward. Kyler Murray is an Arizona Cardinal. The GM is behind him. The head coach is behind him. The players want to play for him. Marvin Harrison Jr. wants the ball thrown to him. Jonah Williams wants to block for him. Trey McBride loves him. These are things that are very important for the overall construct of a team. And it's something that's been foreign to the Arizona Cardinals organization pretty much forever. Do you know how long forever is? It's different now. Or at least the path is there for it to be different. And that's wild. So, 27, as I pretty much talk through this whole segment. Trade up, trade back. What's the more likely scenario? If they draft Marvin Harrison Jr. at 4, which is pretty much the foundation for this podcast, because for this show, because that's what all signs are pointing to. We can throw this in the trash bin if that's not the case, because everything is predicated upon Marvin Harrison Jr. going forward, and that's what the tea leaves are reading several hours before the draft kicks off. I can't make sense of a reason for Monti Ossenfort to trade up. I can't make sense of it. Like, if it were to, I can't find a reason, because this is actually a benefit for the Cardinals needing everything. They need everything. And there's going to be good players at every position at 27. The best pass rusher is going to be gone. The best corner is going to be gone. The best interior defensive lineman is going to be gone, potentially, if you think Byron Murphy's that guy. Johnny Newton, out of Illinois, I know he's not a household name to a lot of people. If you're doing mock drafts, you see him there at 27. He's mocked to go 21. He's mocked to go 34. He's mocked to go everywhere in between. But there's a couple of things the Cardinals have going for them. One, they're not taking a quarterback. Two, they're not taking a wide receiver at 27. So you're looking at corner, you're looking at pass rusher, you're looking at interior defensive line, you're looking at offensive line. I would assume that they're not going to take a corner there, because there's some corners at 35 that they can take. Whether it be TJ Tampa out of Iowa State, who your favorite draft person loves TJ Tampa. Dame talked about it yesterday. Trevor Sikkema loves TJ Tampa. You can take corner in the second round. You can lock in an interior offensive lineman or tackle, or Johnny Newton at 27. Chop Robinson may be there, another guy who's mocked to go a bunch of different ways, 22, 23, and all the way into the second round, pass rusher out of Iowa State. or out of Penn State. I don't see a reason why you trade up because there is not somebody that's head and shoulders above the rest to give up future capital for. Unless, and Dame Parsons said this yesterday, Locked On NFL Draft, he said, a lot of times GMs will take their guy. If he fits their system, it doesn't matter what the mocks say. That's their guy. So if Monti Ossenfort has a guy that he has in his back pocket that he wants to get at 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and give up just a third to move up, and he gets him, fine. The Cardinals need offensive line, defensive tackle, and pass rush at 27, if they do, in fact, need Marvin Harrison Jr., number 4 overall. The trade back for me is a lot more appetizing, interesting. With Carolina having 33 and I think 37 or 39, they've got 2 in the top 10 picks in the second round. If they want to package those to move up to 27, and you give the Cardinals give them maybe it'll probably have to be their first third round pick. I would do that. You only move them back a handful of spots. You need everything. There's a bunch of quarterbacks going. There's a bunch of wide receivers going in the first round. It's going to knock down all the talented players that would most likely be in the top 10 or top 15 in other drafts. It's going to benefit the Cardinals. Regardless of what happens tonight, I'm excited you're with me. I'm excited for this journey. Onward and upward. Locked On Cardinals, the Arizona Cardinals organization, and you, my everydayers. Remember, without you, there is no me. I'll talk to you tomorrow.